Giving Habit, brought to you in partnership with the Majority Trust. Learn more about how they do philanthropy differently at majority.sg. This week's reflection episode is focusing on my interview with Hannes Schmid from Smiling Gecko. And joining me this week is Yenlin Tan. Welcome, Yenlin.
Thank you.
Founding partner of TC Consulting and a fellow inaugural cohort member of the Distinguished Senior Fellowship Program.
Yeah.
There you go. Very good. So a program run by National University of Singapore, 13-week program of learning and discovery. We went through that together last year. I'm curious, what informed your decision to sign up for DSFP?
I was going through a life transition,
Okay.
retiring from corporate life.
Very good.
And I was reading this book by Arthur Brooke, Strength to Strength.
Oh yeah, good book.
Then I learned about the DSFP program and just thought that it would be good to take time out to reflect, recalibrate, and hopefully be more enlightened to operate differently given that we are all going to live longer, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, very good. And so part of the DSFP was a field trip. I must admit I was a bit nervous about it before we went out there. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But off we all went to Cambodia and we visited Smiling Gecko, this complex that Hannes Schmid founded and is the subject of the interview. Hence, I'd really appreciate your reflections and observations from that field trip. So I remember distinctly, we both came away from that trip with many more questions than answers. But maybe, first things first, what challenged your assumptions most deeply when we first kind of set foot onto the Smiling Gecko campus?
As a self-confessed libertarian, right?
Yep.
Everything about Smiling Gecko challenged my assumptions. Okay? I think we had conversations about self-sustaining capability. I think we were trying to wallet size and say how much does it take to run the school? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And optimality, because we have breathtaking, inspirational architectural buildings, and is that necessary, right?
Yeah.
So the questions are surrounding that, right? And then I also remember that Hans briefed us and said that his budget per kid was 3,006 US, and we know that the Cambodian average is like 40, right? So all these questions. And how things will approach when you're in the environment is a daily sort of challenge, right?
Yeah.
And
you see what he's trying to do, but there's always those questions. How do you afford that? How do you maintain that? How do you even start to think about scaling that model over time elsewhere? Right?
Yeah, so I have a bit of that hope and anxiety. It's very paradoxical. I mean, I remember running in the sunset towards that Gong building.
Yeah, beautiful building.
Both inspired, hopeful, and also anxious, like, is this going to prevail in 10 or 20 years? So everything about the whole setup, I think, challenged me.
Yeah, me too. The interview I conducted with Hannes was actually held in the Gong, in that beautiful recording studio they had there. And it was world-class, the facilities, I have to say. But again, affordability, it's a big question. Hannes spoke a lot during the interview about holistic interventions, and you could see that. He was trying to take a systems response to the issues that he saw, in terms of rural poverty in Cambodia, and that being more effective than a piecemeal approach to these types of challenges. Did your experience of Smiling Gecko change the way that you think about social issues, the way that you might think about philanthropy today?
For me, it was my first experience with what I call an ecosystem social enterprise. Right? He's trying to do everything: the school, the hospitality, the self-sustaining organic farms, and so forth. So for me, it's a first, right? I'm very used to the verticals.
Yes.
Right. And it's also audacious.
Yeah.
From the business perspective, I've done a lot of business transformation, so I have seen big, audacious goals translate. So I feel that we are experiencing a big, audacious social enterprise at work. Right. So what I learned from it is I become much more aware of multiplier effect from a social impact perspective. Right. Impacting the people, from the people then impacting the community, and from the community and hopefully socially. So much more, the softer but the more multiplier effects is something I think I took away.
You talked about that paradox there, the tension I think we were all holding between that extraordinary ambition of Smiling Gecko. As you say, this complex with all these different components all working together to try to, break the poverty cycle. And yet there's this ongoing tension of funding, of the sheer cost of building and maintaining and operating that type of complex. Were you able, subsequent to that visit, in any way to resolve that tension?
No. The answer is no. I thought about it. I think the tension will always be there.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we just have to live with that tension.
Yeah.
And not have so much of business operator matrix, that business side of us, to overtake us in terms of how we do work like this.
Yes.
There has to be hope and faith.
Yes.
Because when you're impacting people, there can be a next generation.
Yeah.
Hans is handing it over to some local Cambodians, right?
Yeah.
So I think the tension will always be there. I don't think you can get a definitive 10-year funding, break-even point, and it's also much more organic.
Yeah.
I think the tension is always going to be there, and it's about, that tight balance and keeping that in check and not be so overwhelmed by that you are paralyzed to, from action.
I think you're right. I think if we try to approach this purely from a spreadsheet's perspective, it would just never work. It would never get its feet off the ground. And it deserves to be there, right? Because it does invite really serious questions about social impact and about more of an integrated, holistic approach to philanthropy. I'd certainly encourage folk to go and see it for themselves.
Yes.
It is a resort that one can visit. You don't come away with easy answers, that's for sure. But personally, I thought it's well worth a visit. Great restaurants, great facilities, all that kind of stuff, and some wonderful learning opportunities. Now, following on from that, and now that DSFP, the inaugural cohort's behind us, you've taken on some additional responsibilities, right? So I think you've since taken on responsibility for fundraising, a bursary for future DSFP cohort participants. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I think generally lifespan is increasing.
Yep.
We need more role model, how to thrive in a 100-year economy.
Yep.
And that's what the DSFP is about, and a variety of role models, right? That's what the fellows are supposed to build towards. Yep. So I'm aligned with that vision, but also keenly aware that such a program may not be accessible to certain people at certain age with certain financial constraints, especially those who are dedicated themselves to social causes.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I'm aligned with that, and I hope that we can raise an endowment fund where every year we can allocate for a few participants who are with the right intentions to be able to access this cause. That's why I've taken it on.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, no, it seems to be going well so far. And the second cohort starts when?
August.
All right, very good.
Yes. And I heard it's oversubscribed.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're doing well. Congratulations. Well, very good. Well, look, thank you very much for your friendship more than anything, but also being part of this reflections process. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.